So I'm going to start off with talking about the Impact Collaborative, the unique value proposition, one way of communicating your story, and storytelling itself. So Grace mentioned this, but just to make sure that you're aware, the Extension Foundation is a nonprofit that solely exists to support the cooperative extension system since 2006. So the Impact Collaborative's focus is to incubate program and project teams to create measurable and visible local impact. To achieve this, the Impact Collaborative Workbook is our core curriculum. The Impact Collaborative program combines creative entrepreneurial methodology with cooperative extension best practices. It's become our 64-page workbook with a collection of tools, tips, worksheets, and more. And I'm going to drop the link because the newest version just dropped in January. And it is now available to anyone. So I'm sorry, I'm just trying to find the chat in order to drop this in. Let's see, you know what? I think we might have to share it in another way. The chat is not working. Oh, now it is. Sorry. We did not check that in our tech chat.
There it is.
There it is. So you should be able to find the workbook there and download it and use it on your own as well. So looking at the curriculum a little closer, you'll see that the Impact Collaborative is not a linear process. As a matter of fact, we call this diagram that I'm sharing with you right now our spaghetti diagram because we're going back and forth between different parts of the process, checking, piloting and checking back and forth. And I love it. At a recent event, someone said, when I told them this was the spaghetti diagram, they said, well, look at all the possibilities, right? So the Impact Collaborative Workbook itself contains 18 blocks or modules for new or existing program and project teams. And it might be helpful to look at, all of these different types of blocks listed here in the book. So it goes from, all the way from the canvas and understanding what innovation is, developing a team purpose or why statement, understanding the audience needs through empathy and needs assessment, sound strategies for ideation and idea selection amongst a team. And one of the things that we're going to focus in on today, developing a unique value proposition, planning for how to collaborate with others, planning for impact desired, validating all your assumptions, learning how to underwrite ideas, crafting a compelling story to seek funding and partners, while all along creating a sound implementation plan. So we're going to focus on two blocks today, the Impact Collaborative workbook, or I'm sorry, in the workbook, the unique value proposition, also we call it the UVP, and storytelling. So first, unique value proposition. And if you're following along in the workbook, pages 37 and 38, but how is your idea, your project unique and worth moving forward? So essentially, a unique value proposition is the shortest type of elevator pitch for your project. When you create one, I want you to understand it's fluid and not concrete because you're likely to change, update, and revisit your unique value proposition statement several times. So let's look at what it is. The unique value proposition, it's helpful to see it as one statement, right? But boiling it down to just one statement is hard. So you have to decide what matters with your program or project that you want to convey. And creating the UVP can do that. Let's see. And let's look at the breakdown of this. So a program and project description could be your event, activity, method, curriculum, etc. The target community members or participants are who will benefit, who is this for? Key value is the key feature that shows an understanding and empathy for your community. Primary benefits are your intended outputs and outcomes, and existing alternatives, what's already being done, the status quo. So looking at this, again, a program project description for a target community um, members or participants that has a key value enabling primary benefits unlike existing alternatives. So here is a concrete example that I actually helped work on a while ago. An online financial management course. So that's the program project description for consumers at risk of losing utility bill payment assistance. So that's the community members or participants who are going to benefit from this. That makes it possible to complete the training via a smartphone that's available 24/7. So that's the key value, enabling continued heating assistance for consumers who have barriers to attendance. So that's the primary benefit, unlike once a month face-to-face classes. So having given this example, I'm going to turn it over to Abby, who's going to share how she and her team use the unique value proposition in their work.
Thank you, Molly. Molly and I thought it would be a really great idea, and in addition to this webinar, to give you a concrete example of a project that we worked on here at the University of Minnesota Extension called Nourish and Flourish Conversation Guides. And the team here in Extension had the great opportunity to attend the Impact Collaborative's uh, uh, series on using the workbook. And so we came up with a unique value proposition that I'll show you in a little bit. But before that, I want to explain our project to you a little bit so you have an idea of how we came up with our unique value proposition. So the Nourish and Flourish conversation guides were developed over a long period of time working with community mental health support programs in the Twin Cities. We had 5 community mental health support programs that we worked with and partnered with. And those programs are called clubhouses, where people can go who have chronic and persistent mental health issues, and they can go to these clubhouses to feel safe, to participate in uh, group clubs and have meals and access resources. And so they're like community drop-in centers for people, and they're great places. And the staff there have a lot of opportunity to have serendipitous conversations with folks at any given time during the day. And sometimes topics come up around health and nutrition and healthy lifestyles. And we recognize that people could possibly have these unique conversations with people either in individual or group sessions. So we took some time and we did several photo voice projects and sessions with both clients and staff at the clubhouses to kind of get a feel for what people were really thinking about around physical activity and nutrition and access to healthy foods, and what were some of the challenges that people had, but also what were some of the great things that were happening in their lives. And we thought Photo Voice was the perfect opportunity to learn about some of the needs and wants of the individuals that attended the clubhouses. So from those Photo Voice sessions, we analyzed the photos and the stories that were told to us, And we came up with these with this resource called conversation guides. And if you want to go to the next slide, one of the things that we really tried to center in the conversation guides, and something that we learned through the Impact Collaborative and the workbook, was how to kind of center your why or your purpose. And if you've heard of Sinek's Golden Circle, there's a really great YouTube from TED Talk from way back when about that Sinek kind of goes through these circles of the why, the how, and the what. But really centering the why is the most important thing for us to consider when we're thinking about why we do what we do. And then really thinking through, like, what is our big audacious goal or something to strive for? And you can also call that your vision. And so really what we were trying to figure out with the Nourish and Flourish project was, how will the community that of clubhouses be transformed because of our project? And another way to articulate your ultimate vision is by highlighting positive social, economic, or environmental changes that Sinek also calls condition changes. And so you can check out his TED Talk on YouTube. The title of it is Start with Why. And so why is at the center of this framework that you see here. And it's then surrounded by which is what is your project or your story or your issue that you're trying to express. And then the how is how your program is achieved or your communication about your issue is achieved. And Karen will talk a little bit more later on about that, how to communicate that really with people that are really important to hear a certain message. So the why statement is very powerful because it attracts other people to your shared goal. And that's what we're trying to do with the conversation guides. We really want to bring people into the fold about engaging yourself, your whole self, in how to, and being healthy. And that is no matter who you are and what tools you have in your toolkit to do that. So next slide. So what we did with this Nourish and Flourish project is the conversation guides are really just springboards for that big audacious goal and the coming together of the why. And so the Photo Voice project brought us to some really important priorities that people were thinking about in terms of healthy, engaging in healthy lifestyles. And these 7 priorities were identified, and then we were able to build conversations around these 7 really important themes that emerged. And some of them didn't even have anything to do with physical activity or nutrition, which is of course my wheelhouse. But look at that, creativity came out loud and clear. And we thought this is an important conversation to have with people because creativity helps build the whole self. And then the last conversation guide really did address that whole self piece, which is holistic health. So, oh, and nature was another really strong theme that came out. Okay, next slide. Yeah. So this is what the conversation guides look like. I will stick the conversation guide website in the chat in a second here when I'm done talking. But so every conversation guide, there are 7 of them, and we're hoping that people in the staff in the clubhouses can pick these conversation guides up and use them to have meaningful conversations. They're not scripts, they're just guides. So, but they have really important questions to ask, some real quick down and dirty methods for goal setting if people are up for that. So I kind of call this the process we used motivational interviewing light. Okay, so they're not They're not all the aspects of motivational interviewing that you would learn if you were like trained in motivational interviewing. But a lot of people in mental health care are trained in motivational interviewing. So we thought they could relate to these guides. So all the guides follow the same pattern. You start with the conversation by reading some key messages, maybe sharing some important information if people are up for it, and then choosing some open-ended questions to reflect on the topic, helping people come up with ideas for specific goals that come from them, and then assessing how strongly people feel about those goals that they set. And then if you wish, closing with some quotes that come directly from what people in the photo voice session said about the topic. Okay, next slide. So yeah, I went through this. So this is the format of the guides. And next slide. And so as a part of attending the Impact Collaborative sessions with the Extension Foundation, we came up with our own value proposition for the conversation guides. And so if you want to click again, I think it'll all pop up, Molly. So here is our unique value proposition, and I'll read it to you. The Nourish and Flourish conversation guides draw on diverse voices and ideas to create a resource that helps community mental health support staff discuss nutrition, exercise, and connections to mental well-being. The guides equip staff to initiate non-judgmental, trauma-informed conversations using motivational interviewing techniques. They spark meaningful discussions about health and nutrition, enabling clients to build and practice healthy lifestyles. Unlike typical health resources, these guides feature messages identified by individuals with lived experiences. And so I kind of identified each aspect of the unique value proposition that Molly went through in an earlier slide to see where we hit each aspect of the UVP. All right. So now it is your turn. And a little bit ago, I put in the chat a request for you to maybe think about a program, an idea, a project, something that you are personally working on. And we would love for you to take a little bit of time. We'll give you how many minutes, Molly, did we decide on?
So I
Oh,
think we decided on 10 altogether, but we'll check in at 5 to see how you're doing.
so if you have a piece of paper, pull that out. If you prefer to type on your phone in a little, in a note, or however you want to write this down. It is important to write it down. Take about 5 minutes, and then we'll check in with how you're doing. And then once you are finished with, you're not going to be perfect for the first time, but just give it a stab. Once you're finished with your unique value proposition, if you're up for it, you can type that into the chat, but don't press enter until I tell you to press enter, because I want them to all come through at once so we don't get distracted reading other people's UVP as we're trying to write our own. Okay? Okay, I know so many of you on this, so I get to pick on people. Sue Singh, I haven't seen you in a while. Do you want to show yourself and your cat and see if you want to read us your UVP?
Oh man, Abby, I cannot show myself. I am
Okay.
not prepared for that. I can read it though.
Will you do that for us, please?
Sure. Making data publicly available about the program for our grantees that provide useful, relevant, and timely data breakdown, enabling them to evaluate and assess the program in a timely manner, unlike not knowing what happened to their efforts.
I really like that. So how was that for you to pull that together so quickly? You did a really great job.
Oh, thanks. Um, it is helpful to with your prompt saying what the ideas you have or the projects you're thinking about it right now, and then trying to pull pieces using that formula. It also kind of helps me think about what the core values or why we think this is important.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Susan. All right. How about my
Yes. Oh, hi. Um, sorry. Were we supposed to read our prompt?
yes, please. Yeah, if that would be great. You
Okay.
read your you repeat.
Yes. So I wrote a youth school-based Hmong gardening program for Hmong youth that incorporates in traditional gardening practices and plants, enabling youth to reconnect with their cultural roots and foodways, unlike standard gardening programs that does not have a cultural element. Is what
Yeah, thank you, Mai. That's really a wonderful statement. Can you talk a little bit about, the process you use for pulling that together?
Yeah. I think I just kind of thought um back to like the program like goals and ideas that the team and I originally had. And then also like going back to that reasoning of why did we wanted to create a program like this? And I think that was helpful. Thinking about that was helpful in terms of like thinking about how this program is different from other existing programs. Um, so for me, it was just really backtracking to the whole idea of how did this project even start in the first place.
Yeah, I love that you use the word backtracking because it really
Mhm.
helps to, kind of do that to start with your big audacious goal and then think backward about how what were the preconditions that you needed to reach that. So thank you. Thank you, Mai.
Mhm.
How about one more? I'm gonna pick on Mary Schrader to talk about Rusty's Cooking Club.
Okay. And I'm actually going to read what I wrote down because on my paper, because I think when I wrote it on typed it in, I may have gotten it. I typed it quick and I may have missed something. So, Rusty's Cooking Club for parents and caregivers of preschoolers. It promotes foods enabling improved food intake, unlike parents just reading a fact sheet about picky eaters.
That's great. And maybe you want to talk a little bit about how Rusty came to be into existence.
Yeah, so it actually started when we were kind of trying to figure out how we're going to get people to go to our website to look at the information we are planning to put online for early childhood parents of young children, and we started thinking no one's going to just go there. So that's why we decided to do a cooking club with parents where they would do the cooking club and then get their information about picky eaters that way versus just going to a website and reading it. So
Yeah, that's
and
great. Thank you.
yeah.
One more, but I'll just let somebody volunteer if you want to practice reading it out loud. It's really helpful to read it out loud.
Abby, this is Donna. I can.
Thank you, Donna.
Okay. A wellness center for Park Rapids community members and participants that offers safe, enabling health and wellness, unlike muscle gyms, skinny people at the gym. This is what I'm hearing from people. Church or walking in the street or playing in the snow for families that there is no indoor activities. So those were the alternatives that we have in the summer or winter. So hopefully I did it right.
Yeah, I think you did. And I think really what you're bringing up is things that you've heard from people in the community, things that are
Right.
important to them. and some of the, what else went through your mind when you pulled that together?
That how simple it was to pull it together, because we've been meeting and talking about this, and this is community driven, and how they don't want, they're like, well, you can go to the school from 4 to 6. Seniors do not want to go to the school from 4 to 6 p.m. And they can walk in the street, well, or they can go on a trail in a park. Okay, well, if they already have mobility issues and no sidewalks, no indoor availability, then where can they walk safely? And we have beautiful summertime outdoor activity things, but in the winter we have nothing. And so this is what we have champions around this now more that are going to make this happen. So that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Donna. That was great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think you all did a really great job, and thank you for sharing your UVPs in the chat. And Molly's now going to talk about the next chunk of the workbook around storytelling.
First of all, I just want to commend everyone. You did such a great job, and thank you for those who shared your UVP statements. So here's another communication piece from the workbook, and that's storytelling. So let's think of a time when you needed to tell somebody about your program or project, and it could have been part of a formal presentation, or it could be a chance encounter in a parking lot, let's say. So, how would you make sure that you have a story ready to tell, right? So the UVP statement was one way. I'm going to share a few other ways with it that might expand on that a bit. So it's a golden opportunity to share, what we call a pitch, right? And you want to be prepared. And so part of the storytelling block illuminates how to tell your story within 1 minute, 3 minutes, or once you've, crafted them in 1 and 3 minutes, 5 minutes will seem luxurious to you. I promise. Okay. So first, let's talk about what could you cover within 1 minute, right? And so, introducing yourself quickly, right? What is the challenge or issue or opportunity that you would like to address? Your idea, who benefits and how do they benefit, right? What's the potential community impact? And you're going to also say, who are you partnering with, whether it's existing partners or potential partners, okay? And then we also ask that you ask and ask, all right? So why are you telling somebody about your program, right? What is it that you're looking for? And I'll talk a little bit more about that later on, but each one of these, you'll notice, has an ask in it. So I'm going to first share a 1 minute, so you can see how Christine Hanakawa from University of Hawaii did this for a 1 minute pitch.
Aloha, my name is Christine Hanakawa, and I am the part of University of Hawaii's 4-H youth program team, serving youth who are 5 to 19 years old. Due to COVID, traditional face-to-face delivery is not an option. Youth still need to access positive youth development, or PYD. Volunteers and educators, both in school and out of school, need support in transitioning to a new format. Our team will be working on a virtual hybrid program format for all youth that create an environment of positive youth development, enabling them to learn life skills, gain independence, practice generosity, and feel a sense of belonging built on existing curriculum, unlike unstructured online and offline learning. PYD allows for development of life skills and a lifetime of self-discovery, growth, and inspiration to create, oh my God, create societal changes. We are looking to partner with our colleagues at the university, schools and homeschoolers, other youth organizations, land-grant university extension systems with other existing curriculum, youth, and volunteers. We'd like to ask if you would be able to either share your experience or offer support with distance learning. If not, we appreciate any volunteers, shared resources, or collaborative partnership.
So hopefully you heard all of these elements in Christine's 1 minute pitch. And I should share that these pitches are coming from what we call our showcases. At the end of whether it's a face-to-face event or a online Impact Collaborative Summit, we ask everyone to share a pitch. If it's online, we kind of go towards the 1 minute pitch because it just seems more appropriate for online. I will share a 3 minute pitch that happened at a face-to-face event as well. You can see how she went through the whole thing, right? So who she was, the challenge and opportunity, the idea, who benefits, the potential partners, and then she did the ask as well. So how does that differ than the 3 minute pitch? You'll see a lot of the same elements in here, but we've added a lot more. So, again, the first two are the same. I'll go ahead and let's see if I click again, it should show the why statement that Abby shared with how important it is to know your why. Well, here in a 3 minute pitch, you have a chance to communicate that. Also, potential community impacts, right? So looking at, even more than just immediate impacts. And then any data that you have from piloting things, surveys, signups, focus groups, interviews, any of that will bolster your idea as well, with your full story. And key to the to your 3 minute pitch is what we call the wow. Back in the UVP, some of that may be expressed in the unlike piece of your or the unique value of your program, what sets it apart. But really, what is going to, people say, wow, I want to be a part of this and support this project, this idea. What is it? And you have a luxurious 20 seconds to do that. And we're going to ask you to think about what your wow for your program is as well. Here is a 3 minute pitch from a face-to-face event. I have to warn you all, you may need to turn up your volume on your computer. I've got it at full volume. There's a little bit of issue with it, but I think this is such a great one that I really wanted to share. So this is from the University of Delaware's The Pod team.
Imagine intro music here because it's not working right now.
Good afternoon and welcome. We are The Pod. My name is Blake Moore. I'm the Natural Resources Agent with University of Delaware Cooperative Extension.
Dan Severson, Lucas County Ag Agent.
And I'm Katie Young with Communications for Extension throughout Delaware.
Also part of the team is Jake Jones. He is the Kent County Ag Agent for University of Delaware Cooperative Extension. He's currently vacationing in Florida. So today we're bringing you a Delaware Extension podcast for citizens of Delaware that provides access to unbiased, science-based university knowledge, enabling open, respectful conversation on local to Delaware topics, unlike traditional print and lecture outreach, and also different than larger national based podcasts. What is a podcast? On-demand, free internet radio.
Well, Jake, I really like Blake. I really like that idea. As a father of four, my time is limited and everybody's busy schedule. The flexibility, I can listen to a podcast whenever, wherever, and multiple times. And most of us all have an iPhone or a smartphone, so I can listen to it on the drive. It's perfect for drive time. Even when I'm out in a tractor or a combine driving around, it's hands-free, unlike Facebook, because my farmers love Facebook, but this just gives you hands-free. If we keep it Delaware-centric and keep it local, and we do this, we start out doing this once a month and grow as our budget and concerns grow, we can expand. But I think we have the ability to approximately reach 350,000 Delawareans according to recent research.
So you might ask how we plan to implement this. We're going to start with a focus group. We have an idea about who we want our audience to be and who might be interested in our podcast. And that includes people that are interested in ag, natural resources, pretty much anything that Extension does, including FCS. Obviously, reaching out to locals in Delaware and even students. We want to find out what they listen to, why, the length that they're willing to listen to a show about, and what kind of topics they want to hear. And this naturally lends itself to partnerships. Not only are we going to bring in experts from different fields, we're going to be able to give them valuable outreach data for them to take back to their own grants. As far as feedback is concerned, we're both going to do surveys, as well as have a discussion group on Facebook that, as long as it stays respectful and civil, people can have different ideas. They can bounce them off each other. Our idea is not to tell people what to believe. Our idea is to give people the tools to get science-based information and make their decisions from there. What do we need? We need guests. We need money for equipment, mics, converters, that sort of thing. Subscriptions, software, a recording location that right now we could use the UD library or the Dover library, but it would be nice to have a nice little office that was soundproofed, and advertising. So we're asking for $2,000 to $2,500.
So I'm sure you heard all of those different elements that were in the 3-minute pitch. Hopefully you heard it. I know the sound was a little wonky on that. So what if you had a luxurious 5 minutes? What would be added on here? So it's really time, right? You have a little bit more time to add in, and then you also have the opportunity to say, and this is what we don't know yet. So the key unknowns, and like I said, you have a lot more time within that. So Abby asked you in the chat, think about what would be your ask for your program or project. Should you have 1 minute, 3 minutes, or 5 minutes? And I'd like you to think about more than just money, which is kind of where both of the teams that we talked about, or that I gave as an example, did. So we call that treasure, right? So you're asking for money investment, but there are really 3 other of the 4 T's that I'd like to introduce you to. So it might be that you need time, right? Who has the time to commit? Like maybe I know a lot of you all are working in cooperative extension or at universities or in public health, and you're getting one more project put on. So maybe you need release time or time to commit, right? So I also want you to know that one observation that I think is a universal, right, is sometimes it's the busiest people who get things done, and that's probably why you're being asked to do more. But because it's related to your passion to the project or to the community is how come you can really get it done. Are you looking for talent? Right? Who has the skills that you're looking for and experience, the knowledge? Many times we have no idea who has the talent we need. The quietest person in the room might be the most experienced, but we won't know until we ask, right? So, again, treasure, I think that's a no-brainer, right? It's the financial resources. The treasure could also be related to time, talent, and the next 4T, which is ties. This is where the richness of networks comes into a project. Everyone you asked to join a project or to support a project brings a network of colleagues, friends, acquaintances, and connections. So there's more to ask for in your story than just money. Also, I want you to think about who's hearing your story. So here is a list of considerations that the person hearing your story may be thinking of. So, is the issue clearly stated, right? Do they understand what it is you're asking for and what the issue is? Is there a need or an urgency, or are you just saying, here it is, right? But if you need to convey that. Is the idea clearly stated? Is the community represented in your as we mentioned, partners or the priority audience that you are working with, that this idea is for, and then make sure your ask is realistic, right? Know who, think about who is hearing this, right? And what is it that you're asking for? And we'd all love $1 million for our programs, but it's unlikely that that amount of money is realistic for most of us. So, Abby, do you want to lead us in sharing, having everyone share our wow?
Yeah, so just like we did before with your UVP, and this doesn't have to be very long, I'd love for you to just type in the chat what you think the wow of your idea, program, or project is, and then we'll do the river activity and we'll put it in the chat all together. Okay, I would just love Kanisha to, if you feel brave enough to just read your wow.
Hi, good morning or good afternoon. My wow was research and policy based. So to have a collective women's health agenda informed by research and community collaboration to improve women's health in our city, state, and region.
Yeah, so what's the little nugget in you that you're thinking is like the wow? That's gonna like grab people's attention.
I may be biased, but I just think it's the fact that we're a research institution that focuses on women's health, and there's a lot of need going on, but I feel like it's very piecemeal. So the wow is that it's like a collective agenda that is inclusive of community input. So it's not looking at any one specific health issue, but looking at a multitude of things that can improve women's health across the state.
Yeah, I love that. And I agree. When I read your statement, I thought the collective idea is the wow. And you centered that in the very beginning. So thank you for that example.
Thank you.
Yeah, so one more. How about Catherine Holger?
Hi, excuse me. Hi. I said getting residents of all ages to work together towards a common goal.
So for you, what is the nugget there?
Well, it's kind of twofold, the residents of all ages and a common goal.
Yeah, so getting people from all different age groups, and we know how the generations sometimes interact or don't interact, but
Right.
getting them to come up with a common goal. I got that right away from your message. So thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, okay, wonderful. All right, if we go to the next slide, we now we don't have to do the river activity here. But if you could just put into the chat what you think your next steps are to use the unique value proposition and the storytelling pitch in your work and in your programs, projects, ideas, issues, whatever you're thinking about today. So as you think about that, you can just stick it in the chat and press enter. So great. So, Lee, thank you. Lee and I work on one project together, Lee Vogler. So Lee's going to practice and expand upon the UVP in storytelling and conversations. That's great. It's really great to, keep practicing these UVPs, because as you say it more, it becomes easier and easier to just be, um, I'm having trouble thinking of the word I want, but extemporaneous, that's the word. So Jennifer says this will help refine how I discuss my ideas and programs I work with. And then Catherine says, I'll use them to help when I try to connect with potential collaborators. Right. So here, Catherine's recognizing that her ask is for collaborators, not necessarily the treasure part. And then Kanisha says that she will use this presentation to center for the center, because they just concluded the strategic planning process, and the UVP and storytelling process will help frame the agenda for the next 5 years and help our community and partners understand what we do. Yeah, so that's fantastic. I recommend that you take a look at the workbook too, to see if there are any other pieces in there that you'd want to incorporate into the implementation of your strategic plan. And Mai says, it'll help me start thinking about how to tell a better story of my project and highlight its value. I love that. Donna says she'll use the UVP in upcoming board and support group meetings. And I know Donna very well, and I know she has a lot of connections with different boards in the Park Rapids area. So, and that you already did storytelling today at a community meeting. That's awesome. And she got 2 new champions that are attending the board meeting for the first time. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, and then lastly, Jennifer says she'll share this with a community partner who's planning on going to their board with an ask. And that's great. Passing this information on is exactly what we'd love for you to do. So yeah, if you want to put the next slide up, and Molly and I are here for about 5 minutes to answer any of your questions or make any comments that you might have. And then we're going to pass the presentation on to Karen Ahrens. And if you want to put a question in the chat, we're happy to.
This is Emily. I have a question that I posed earlier in the chat regarding the photo voice activity. If you can circle back to that, just kind of wondering the connection between your goals and the actual prompts that you gave to participants that were out in the wild taking photos. Like, just kind of wondering some insight around like what you had kind of told them, or what questions they themselves were answering prior to getting into the emergent themes and analysis there.
Yeah, thank you, Emily, for that question. So we structured the Photo Voice project to have 2 meetings with the participants, and the first meeting was a really great interactive meeting with the participants, and we talked about photo voice and the process of taking photos, and then we introduced these really simple questions to them. What in your environment and your surroundings helps you with your health, and what challenges you with your health? And it was just that prompt that we used. I think keeping it really simple and open to creativity, and being very general about your question helps people expand what they would possibly bring back to you, the group, in the form of photographs. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and I'm gonna put the website in the chat right now for our Nourish and Flourish conversation guides. And there's also a really great link in there on the first page to our Photo Voice Gallery website, which has all the photos and their stories in there. So you can read what I always go back to that website. I love it so much. So yeah. What other questions are there out there? Okay, so I don't hearing none. That's all fine and good. I loved all the comments in the chat about how you're going to move forward with the UVP and the storytelling. So carry that with you. I'm also in the chat. I'm going to put the Cynics his YouTube on the Y, and so you can go watch that his TED Talk. Anything else, Molly, you want to add?
No, but please, take full advantage of the workbook curriculum. There are short videos in each one of the blocks explaining them. There are activities like the two that we did today that are embedded in there, and it can take your project program from idea stage right through to prepping for implementation as well. So we only shared 2 out of the 18 blocks. So there's 16 more to go in there.
Okay, Karen, you ready to tee up your slides?
I am. Welcome, everyone. I just want to thank you for the invitation to be with you today. Thank you for everyone who's here for making time to participate. Thank you to Molly and Abby for sharing this information. And just like the others on this call, I'm already thinking of ways to improve the work I do through these techniques. So thank you so much for that. And I will try to get to the right place so that I can share my slides at the appropriate place and size here. So I'm going to share my screen. Thank you for your patience. Okay, hopefully it's set up okay now.
Yes, it is. Yep.
All right, wonderful. Again, welcome everyone. And I just also wanted to share that I am joining you today from the ancestral lands of the Nacotchtank and Piscataway people, and that gratefully acknowledge them and the diverse and vibrant Native communities who make their home here in the Washington, D.C. area today. I guess I'm the person today who is sharing with you a little bit, as Abby said, about the how of all of this and how using storytelling and finding and sharing unique value propositions have served me in my work. And I hope that everyone who's participating today will learn at least one tip, if not more, to communicate with a decision maker. So a lot of my work, I am communicating directly with the staffs of the decision makers who are people who serve as representatives or senators in the US Congress. But I also encourage you to think about decision makers in as many different people, not only elected officials, but also your boss, someone who makes grants available to people, to foundation people, a patient or a client if you work in healthcare or extension, your spouse. your professor, or even some people that you're asking for crowdfunding. So just to really broaden your thinking about who are the decision makers that we want to share our information with and help them understand and take action in support of our ideas. I thought I just, as a way of getting to know a little bit more about me, share my pitch here. So I'm Karen Ahrens with the Alliance to End Hunger. These days, my challenge is that elected officials are seeking large cuts to basic food and nutrition needs programs. My idea is simple: to help make sure that people have the food they need to live their best lives. Over 42 million people in the United States participate in SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. It's an effective and efficient program. And it's of note that of the households that take part in the SNAP program, 8 out of 10 of them include a child, an elder, or a person with a disability. And that the Alliance to End Hunger brings together over 110 organizations in diverse partnerships that includes large businesses like Cargill to faith-based groups and universities. And you can see there's a wide range of groups here. We don't agree on everything, but we do agree that we can end hunger in our lifetimes. And so I'm asking you not to make cuts to the SNAP program. So in preparing for this and then refining it a little bit more today, I wanted to share my pitch to help you better understand where I'm coming from with my lived experience today. Just a little bit more on the long and winding road of my work, in that my career is bookended here in Washington, D.C. Toward the beginning of my career, I had the opportunity to serve as an intern in the House of Representatives for then Representative Byron Dorgan of North Dakota. And it was there that I first started to see how nutrition and nutrition policy worked and can work together. And then here, now towards the end of my career, I'm back in Washington, D.C. And I like to call myself the most senior rookie on Capitol Hill. That meaning that even though I've been an advocate throughout my career, and in fact, I was thinking back to the first time I started advocating for something. I think I was in grade school and I was reading one of those little magazines that we used to get in the classroom that had news stories. There was a news story about animal testing on rabbits, like how they used to test cosmetics and shampoos and things on rabbits. And at the time, I kept rabbits as pets. So I remember writing a letter to the FDA asking them to stop testing cosmetics on rabbits. So my advocacy experience has been long and on this long and winding road. For many years, I served as a volunteer advocate with my professional organization, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. And I said, someday, maybe I'll even get a position where I'm paid to be an advocate. And it's finally arrived. But you don't have to get paid to be an advocate. In fact, most of my entire career, I did it as a volunteer. And then in between times, I was advocating for various things in my role as a consultant with the state health department, the state education department, state agriculture department, advocating for local food programs, advocating for people to make better choices about nutrition and physical activity, advocating for people in power within departments to take up and include these programs as part of their work. And so just a little bit more about this long and winding road in my career as an advocate. And I have ended up here at the Alliance to End Hunger, where our membership includes these organizations, which, as you can see, is a lot of different, and it's such a wonderful experience to be able to um, help bring the people with who are working on many different things. Most of all, they have in common food, their support for federal nutrition programs. They're wanting to make sure that the people in their orbits have enough healthy food to eat every day. As Abby noted, I wanted to talk a little bit about the how of things. So we have learned about and practiced writing our value propositions, our unique value propositions, but then it's time to actually communicate those to someone. And nowadays, when it seems like people in our nation are very polarized, people think one way or another, they identify with one group or another, and that it can be hard to walk up to someone or think about someone and ask them to just listen to you, to ask them to consider providing resources. Um, or just make sure that things don't get cut. So I learned some really good advice when I was running for office. I actually did run for office myself, and one of the things that caused me the most anxiety was door knocking. So that means walking up to houses in the district that you hope to represent and introducing themselves, um, doing a very sales pitch, except I didn't, have the terms like we're using today, but giving an elevator speech or asking them to consider voting for me. And that was my ask. And I found it very difficult. And I practiced it a lot of times, hundreds of times, in fact. Um, and with this advice that I received from a very wise counsel and guide, and that's State Senator Tim Mathern, who lives in the Fargo area. So as I was beginning on this journey of running for office, Senator Mathern said, when you walk up to a door, try to look at that door, that front yard, and find something that you have in common with that person who's going to answer the door just by looking at their house. So sometimes I'd walk up to a house and I'd see the flowers that were growing in the yard and that I liked those flowers or tried to grow them myself. I might see the color of their door and be able to find something in common with liking the same color that they liked. To something they might have stored near their front door, their mailbox, just finding something. And I think that's even more important these days, as I mentioned earlier, and how polarized people are. Our brains often go to the places where we're looking for differences, but to ask is a good place to start, that we look for things that we have in common. And not all of you are going to knock on doors. So I encourage you to think about the places where you might meet a decision maker. It might be in an office. If you're a healthcare professional, it might be in a healthcare office. It might be in a city council office. It could be even at the grocery store, in a park, a library, or another community setting. So these are some of the other places where you can think about, if it's not their shared space, finding something in the environment that you might have in common, or through the small talk, as some people comment, or the call it the getting to know you conversations that we have with others in our community, that you look for something in common. And that can go for a long way, to helping start a conversation with someone else. I'm sharing with you a recent visit that was one of my favorites, and it's still yet to be seen if the outcome is as we liked it. But through this work, bringing together people of diverse backgrounds, and hopefully you can do that too in your community. I heard so many enjoyed reading the descriptions of your projects, and they sounded so incredible. So I hope that you can also incorporate group discussions around sharing your unique value proposition like they did in one of those videos too. Because the synergy that happens when you're together with other people who don't agree on everything, but do agree on some things, and they can bring their unique perspectives in and help complete the more full, rounded out story that you're trying to get across. Just in this photograph, we see people who are students, people who are professionals, people who come from various faith traditions, all standing together, um, uh, working toward a similar goal. And that can be very powerful. So I hope that you will find these experiences too. Because of the times that we are in, and I did see that some of you are working in food and nutrition programs as well, or other programs that are government funded that support people's basic needs. I wanted to share with you this very recent polling that was done and some of the message guidance that was developed out of this polling. This is the results of a nationwide poll surveying over 2,430 voters in March of this year. And they were exploring different message strategies for supporting Medicaid, SNAP, housing programs, and other federal programs for people with low incomes in the face of proposed cutbacks. So the polling was commissioned by the Partnership for Basic Needs. And it's a really critical time for stepping up in defense of these programs. And I hope that as you can, in your role as an individual or a professional, can speak up for these programs that benefit so many in our communities. And as the late Senator Wellstone used to say, we all do better when we all do better. I think one of the most surprising things to come out of this polling is the use of the term basic needs programs. For years, and maybe some of you have also referred to these programs as safety net programs or anti-poverty programs. And when the pollsters asked people questions and using the terminology of safety net, for example, or anti-poverty, they didn't test as well. They didn't score as highly, and they weren't as accepted or resonate with people who are hearing the messages. And then I stopped to think about why that might be. And then I thought, when's the last time anyone was at the circus and saw trapeze artists with a safety net underneath them to catch them, which is, I think, where the terminology began. And it's hardly ever seen any longer, right? So I didn't mean to do that. So I think it's falling out of favor. It's falling out of people's experiences with life. So the term that did resonate with people was the term basic needs. Other things that helped people acknowledge and accept and really be positive about the messages that were shared were programs that help with nutrition and healthcare, especially SNAP, school meals, WIC, and Medicaid, were programs that people thought were important to keep. Also, when we highlight the programs support people who need it the most, children, people with disabilities, seniors with low incomes, and other people who need support, like veterans, that fell favorably on people's ears. And speaking to these very large cuts that have been proposed for both Medicaid and SNAP and programs like LIHEAP, that the cuts are targeting the heart of programs. They're not just like trimming the fat. These are cutting the very heart of the programs. And people could get that when they use the language like that. Also that I wanted to make sure that you, if you're part of this webinar today, are a trusted messenger. So people who are healthcare professionals, service providers, or program recipients, those kinds of messengers were most trusted. And the less trusted messengers in this polling were politicians and celebrities. So you are trusted messengers and your voice matters. Just a couple other points from the surveying is that defending basic needs programs is that they help people and they're smart investments. Like investing in food programs has a positive impact on local economies, that they benefit farmers, they benefit businesses, support jobs, and entire communities. So it didn't work when they used messaging that described food assistance as a handout, but more so that it supports local economies. And another line, since many of us are working in food and nutrition, is that putting it in the context of what is going on in the world today, in that many families are feeling the pressure of rising costs of basics like milk, fruits, and veggies, cutting the services that help families afford the basics, like groceries, has ripple effects throughout communities. Again, talking about how the programs support grocers, farmers, small businesses, and that these are investments that help strengthen local economies and build stronger communities across our country. Oops, I'm getting a little crazy here with my, let's see, and that, so like I just said, putting it in context of the rising cross prices and inflation, even though inflation overall is starting to come down, inflation around food is continuing to rise in the past 3 months or so. So that can help, how programs help in these times is effective, and what the human impact is of cuts to programs, harm to people, and raising costs for everyone. Okay, I'm going to see if I can get to a place on my screen. I'm going to just stop because I saw that there people put some comments in the chat box, and I want to make sure if oh, good. And Abby has asked everyone to describe the start of your advocacy journey with a Healthy Start project in Seattle. Great. Did what I've said so far bring to mind any questions or comments that you'd like to share with the group? You can put those in the chat box, or you can ask me right now that I put a pause on sharing my screen. Okay, if not, then I will try to bring back my screen. Oh, and excuse me while I scroll through again here. So the examples that were given with Molly and Abby's presentation were about what you would do or how you advance in your paid role as an employee. And so I wanted to say that it's important that I make the distinction between education and advocacy, and to provide you with some resources if you are needing or wanting more information on the difference between providing education about your program, especially if your program receives any kind of federal funds. It's important to make the distinction that federal funds cannot be used for advocating, but that talking about your program, sharing facts about what your program does, uh, should be considered acceptable. But be sure to check with your organization first for your organization's rules and some resources to help make those distinctions and help you get a better understanding about that. I've included here as resources from Change Lab Solutions, the American Public Health Association, and the DeBeaumont Foundation, which has a toolkit and some other information, journal article about communicating about public health in turbulent times. And these certainly are. But I also wanted to encourage people that because we spend on average 8 hours a day at work, and the rest of those hours of the day when we're not at work, when we're individual citizens who can speak out with our own voices, our own communication devices on our own time, to encourage you to speak out at this time, to make your voice heard, because you are a person with lived experience, no matter what that your lived experience is. It's unique to you, and you as an individual have a unique value proposition too. You're a constituent of your elected officials. We elect officials at the city, local level, at the county level, at the state level, and at the federal level. And as I heard at a Food is Medicine workshop yesterday, that it's important to share also with your local officials about what your experiences is, especially if a program that you take part in has received some cuts or will receive cuts, what difference that would make for you, your family, or someone that you love, or someone that you live near, your neighbor in the community. What would it mean for your neighbor to share those stories and those experiences with your elected officials? And I love this quote because I've referred to it several times. Some days it seems so daunting that my voice does shake. And I know I'm not the only one, and maybe yours does too. So just to remember how important it is to speak the truth, even if your voice shakes. And as Molly said earlier, and Abby, that practicing helps with this too. And so you can practice saying your messages, whether you're speaking as an advocate or for the program that you're working on. You can practice in front of a mirror. You can practice to your dog. You can practice to your spouse and your coworkers. So but the more you say things out loud, the easier that it gets. And I have to keep reminding myself of that because as an introvert, sometimes you don't always speak a lot out loud to other people unless you have to. but it is really good to practice. The more you do it, the easier it gets. Throughout my career, there is one thing that I have learned, and I know for sure, is that we can do more together than we can do on our own. And in these times, sometimes it can be we can have feelings of sadness, we can have feelings of powerlessness, um, we can have feelings of loss. But what has helped me, and I think can help everyone, is by coming together, by talking about things that are not right or not normal, and by standing up and taking action together. So I always, sometimes when I give legislative updates to people, I feel like I'm their daily doom scroll because there are a lot of things um, that are detrimental to public service programs, basic needs programs. There is a lot going on. And so I am trying to share with you images or thoughts that bring joy and bring strength. And hopefully I can pass that along to you, that when you go back to your workplace, or you go back to your classroom, or you go back to your family, that you can find at least one thing a day, something that brings you joy, and share that. I also have words to encourage people, and just tiny stories of words of encouragement with each of these. Patience, that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice, as the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said. So sometimes patience, people are not always ready to hear what you are trying to tell them the first time that you say it. So not be, of course, it can be discouraging when you get a no or that you're shut down. But I encourage people the patience to get back up and try again. Because at the time that people's ears are hearing a message, they might not be ready to receive that message. So you might have to do it again, or you might have to find a different person to deliver the message. Maybe you're not the one to deliver the message. I know that one of the luxuries I have in working with such a diverse group of member organizations with the Alliance to End Hunger is that there are different organizations whose voice and appearance can deliver a message better than mine and be accepted by the party that's willing, that we need to hear it. So I have this luxury of if it's not me who's delivering the message, I can reach out to other groups whose voices may be heard better or more receptively than mine can. So if your pitch didn't work the first time, maybe you can regroup and find someone else in your organization or your coalition or your neighborhood group to deliver the message. Persistence. When we had our state Healthy State Initiative in North Dakota, one of the groups I worked with was the State Chamber of Commerce. And I was told by the president of that Chamber of Commerce that I was a pleasantly persistent person. And I don't think he necessarily meant that in a totally positive way. But I just continued on and kept on doing what I was doing. although some people would call it nagging, other people would call it persistence. So again, like if your ask or your change that you're trying to make doesn't get taken up the first time, find another messenger, go back and try again. Maybe someone else has taken over the power of making the decisions. Maybe the person who was in the place to make the decisions about yes or no to a project moving forward is out of the picture. And when someone else comes in, is a better time or a new time or another opportunity to make your ask. So persistence is another word that I found to serve me well over the course of the years. Also, empowerment. And I think all of us know in our learning over the past few years, the importance of giving the opportunity of the people who are impacted by programs to bring their voices to speak for change or to speak for things. And that sometimes, as someone who doesn't participate in a program, that I can share that I think it's a good idea. I can share the data and statistics that these programs work. But empowering and giving the opportunity for someone who participates in a program to use their voice. And of course, this always needs to be done with informing the person that stepping forward and using their own voice may not be without risk. And there are programs to help support people with lived experience when we ask them to share a story. But their voices are so powerful when they are able to share their experience. I just about 3 weeks ago had a lovely opportunity to bring along to a Hill visit a person with lived experience, someone who has participated in SNAP and Medicaid program. And she was so powerful in sharing the difference that those programs had made in the life of her family, especially for her son. And there really is, when that can be done under right conditions and the person can have support and not be put in a compromising position, empowering people, organizing people, like the Photo Voice Project is a way of empowering people to share their images, their experiences, and their voices too. And giving thanks. Giving thanks for the opportunity to do the job that you're doing. Giving thanks to the people who help support you, giving thanks to someone who listened to your idea, even if they didn't agree with it right yet. And just thanking someone else for the job that they do. Like right now, people who work in the offices of legislators are under some pressure, no matter which political party their boss works for. Their jobs are very stressful. So my taking a moment to acknowledge that they are public servants, that they are setting up their schedules, so allowing me time, allowing my colleagues time to speak with them, and thanking them for their work, whether they agree with you or not, is, I believe, a good thing to do, and it's something that can help bridge divides between people and acknowledge that public service is important to all of us. Okay, I think I will stop sharing my screen because I can't see all of you now, and I see that there are some comments going on in the chat box, so I want to make sure and get back.
Karen, I've been just adding reflections on what you're saying.
Oh, okay, great, thank you.
That's what this. But Bolo Watife says, this is so resourceful and enlightening, and thanks you for your presentation. As well as Kanisha, who says we have to lead with kindness when dealing with others.
I love those comments. And then I did want to take this opportunity to stop and give you an opportunity to not just hear me going on, but let's pause here and reflect. And I'd like to encourage you to share in the chat box or come off mute and share. Based on what you've been hearing today, can you think back to a time when you had an ask, you asked something of a decision maker, how it went and how it felt? And if you'd want to share with us in the chat box, what would you do differently now? So thinking back to a time when you had to go before a decision maker and ask them something, thinking about the outcome of that ask, is there something now that you would do differently that you think might increase your chances of that ask being more successful? I'm going to call on Abby to ask if anything has come to your mind on.
Well, yeah, I guess sometimes I really like the slide you had about the quaking voice. And so like trying to kind of stay composed has always been a challenge, or is a challenge that I find, especially if it's something very emotionally laden or really, really important to you, that the message gets across. So how do you, like, what techniques do you use to maintain that composure?
Oh, that's a good question. I just had someone tell me that they felt like I was calm in a meeting. And I felt like inside my head, it was kind of exploding. Or actually, you've probably heard that analogy of like being like a duck, and you see the duck gliding across the water, and underneath their little web feet are paddling furiously. For myself, things that I try to do are being present. Like my mind has the would like to wander or think ahead to like, what if this goes wrong, or what if they say this, or what if they say that, but just like like trying to shut my mind down and say, no, focus on what the person is saying in front of me right now. And oh, another thing is, if you're in a meeting with someone and they ask you a question and you can't answer it right away, it's okay to say, I don't know the answer to that, but I'll get back to you. And then that gives you the opportunity to go back around for another connection with that person, to provide an email or a phone call and provide them with the information that you couldn't bring to your mind at that time. Um, yes.
Thanks for that. Kanisha, do you want to unmute and just say what you wrote in the chat?
Sure, I realized it was pretty lengthy. So yeah, I have been doing advocacy work for about 20 years. Oops, my camera's off, sorry. And I think that for me, it's definitely easier to walk in a room where you know you're in the room with allies or people with common values or interests. So it's kind of a friendlier, lighthearted conversation versus being in a room where, you know, maybe a particular legislator doesn't support anything you're asking for, despite, you know, outcomes and such. So for me, I've just learned to challenge my bias, not go in like, oh, this person isn't going to receive anything I say, but just try to be kind and lead with the personal stories and try to find the common ground, and not take like being asked questions or anything like that personal. So just kind of like I try to deactivate myself and stay calm. And not that I was ever, responsive, but internally, like you said, in my head, I feel like I may be going crazy, but it's like, don't take it as a personal charge, even if sometimes they're just asking questions for clarity, or maybe they don't really understand something, and not assume that they're just shutting me down. So it's just being calm, being patient, being kind, and just trying to find the common ground with the individuals.
Thank you, Kanisha. I appreciate that. I also wanted to give to Jennifer's comment in the chat too, taking the time for personal connection. That is sometimes hard, but I've tried, excuse me, when possible to find out about something about the person that I'm sitting across from, not just what I can see, but to ask them about their previous experiences, or uh, often in offices, they like to talk about sports, which is not always the best thing for me, but I try to stay up on the latest score, at least one sports team, so I can comment. But yes, trying to take the time for personal connection. It is not always possible, but um, also I think, and I wanted to, I don't think I covered this when I wanted to, so thank you for the prompt, in that it's really hard to just walk into someone that you're just meeting for the first time and ask them for something. But if you can develop a relationship, like meet over several times in different situations, and develop mutual connections, that just as a human being, it is a lot easier to make an ask than it is to just walk in cold. Oh, Emily, that's a good point too. Sometimes you just have to walk away if there's a very large gap in the values or the things of the beliefs of the person too. And that can be hard, or it can be easy. But yes, thank you for bringing that point up. That's a good one.
Karen, before the next question, if there is another question, I'm going to put our LinkedIn profiles in the chat. So if anybody wants to connect with us that way, they can do so.
Okay, and I also did want to be sure to leave us with a thought from the late Congressman John Lewis to send us off on a positive note. And Congressman Lewis said, "So I say to you, don't give up. Don't give up on the things that have great meaning to you. Don't get lost in a sea of despair, and stand up for what you believe in." So I hope that with that, you've learned at least one thing to move you further along in your storytelling, in developing your value proposition, and accomplishing great things in your careers. And Abby and Molly, I'll bring you back in to add things that need to be said before we tie it up.
I think that John Lewis quote just capped it all off. So thank you for that. And I know that Grace is going to finish this up here.
Yes. Unless Molly, if you had thoughts you wanted to share before Okay, fantastic. So I'm dropping a link in the chat for an evaluation for this session. I'll also be sending it in an email afterwards with some other things. I also wanted to run an ending poll so we can kind of gauge how much we've learned about this topic. So I will try to bring that up if I remember how to do that. Oh yes, here we go. Okay. So if you would please answer this poll very quickly, that would be lovely. It's looking good. It's looking like we've learned a significant amount. Okay, I'll go ahead and end that poll. So yes, thank you so much for joining us, everybody. I'll also be sending out an email with so the evaluation again, and then a little more information about an upcoming session in the fall. So yes, thank you so much for joining us, and enjoy the lovely weather if it's lovely where you are. It's lovely here.
I just want to say thank you again for this opportunity. It's
Yeah.
really great. And I loved how engaged everyone was. And Abby and I were discussing behind the scenes. It's like, oh, every activity